I just spent the last 3 days in San Francisco at HashiCorp's Global Cloud Conference, HashiConf. This was the 10th year of the event, and it really showed how HashiCorp is reshaping hybrid infrastructure and security for an AI-driven future. I hit a bunch of talks and hands-on workshops on cloud, infrastructure, and security, and got to meet and interview some incredible people, including the author of the Terraform Cookbook, who's now a senior developer advocate at HashiCorp, the VP of Infrastructure Engineering at GEICO, who was a former VP at Cloudflare. I also met the founder of Women in Linux, and even HashiCorp's own co-founder and CTO, Armon Dadgar. I also got to catch up with a few friends and fellow tech creators to get their perspectives on the future of infrastructure and security. There were a ton of big announcements and new features around infrastructure and security lifecycle management that caught my eye. I got to learn a lot of things and came back with plenty of insights I can't wait to share in this video. So let's jump right into it. Yo, what is up, guys? It is a beautiful morning here in the city of San Francisco. I'm here at the Intercontinental at San Francisco for HashiConf 2025. I'm headed out now to meet up with a couple of folks, some familiar faces, and just see what this whole day is all about. I have a full calendar. I'm excited for some talks, for some workshops, for some labs and different things. So I'm going to be bringing you guys along with me as I enjoy this first day of HashiConf here in San Francisco. Let's get into it. After breakfast, I caught up with my friends from the Cloud Security podcast, Ashish and Shilpi. Ashish and I go way back to when we both started creating content about 5 or 6 years ago, and I've been on their podcast a few times, and he's also joined me on my Cyber Stories podcast. It was definitely awesome finally seeing them in person again after almost 3 years. The opening keynote was delivered by Armon Dadgar, HashiCorp's co-founder and CTO. He kicked things off by recognizing the HashiCorp ambassadors, one of which I actually got to meet later in the week, so you'll see that later in this video. It was a really cool way to highlight the folks who represent the brand. From there on, Armon shared HashiCorp's worldview of hybrid infrastructure, which for me was pretty eye-opening. I've worked in cloud at a pretty large scale, and you think it's all public cloud, but the reality is that a lot of organizations are actually running hybrid models, and some are even dealing with these things called neoclouds. A bunch of later talks dove into that more deeply. One announcement as part of this keynote that stood out to me was around SBOM visibility in Packer. Now, during the image build process, you can generate an SBOM snapshot, store it as an artifact, and surface it as image metadata. And this means that you will always know what's running in your builds, and you can quickly catch vulnerabilities as new CVEs come out. Another feature that really hit home for me was Terraform Search. There was a time when I was working with a startup a few years ago. Most of our infrastructure was deployed with ClickOps, and we tried this huge project to migrate everything into Terraform. Long story short, it all failed, and the complexity was pretty brutal. So with Terraform Search, that basically solves that problem. It's able to scan for unmanaged resources and then generate Terraform code to bring them under management. It's now in open beta, and honestly, it's been a long time coming. On the security side, HashiCorp also dropped Vault Radar. It's a secret scanning and detection tool built right into your IDE, and you can copy a secret and throw it straight into Vault without leaving your editor. The part I love most about it is the fact that it catches secrets pre-commit. A lot of us have had to hack together some pre-commit hooks or third-party tools for this, but now it's native, and this means that secrets don't even make it into your repo in the first place. There were plenty of other releases and announcements, so I'll leave a link to the full keynote in the description below if you want to go deeper. After the keynote, I took some time to explore Fort Mason. The views out here are pretty incredible, and the place has a pretty cool backstory. It started as a Spanish military outpost back in 1797, and then became a US military reservation in 1851. Over 250 years of history right there on the San Francisco waterfront.
Whoa! Okay. What up?
Hey, let's go. Before going for my next talk, I swung by my former employer's booth. For anyone new here, I used to be a security engineer on Datadog's Cloud SIEM detection engineering team, and I was one of the first hires that helped build out the product's detection content and capability. Those were some really fun times. Next, I caught up with Rebecca Weekly, the VP of Infrastructure Engineering at GEICO, and Amar Zuberi, who is a distinguished infrastructure engineer at GEICO. I met with them right before their session on securing hybrid cloud at scale, and I asked them about the biggest challenge in locking down hybrid cloud and how they think teams can solve it. Here's what they shared.
Consistent methodology for your user's identity, and then do you have a consistent path to enforce that identity and access across clouds? If those two answers actually are yes, you're gonna be fine. The problem is most existing legacy environments don't. They have 41 different ways of doing, user authentication, and they have multiple different ways that they're going to move traffic across. And so you have to look at those two combined solutions to identify the path and then the intercept for where and when you fix it.
I would probably agree with most of what Rebecca said. I think the biggest challenge for us has been taking what we have today and going from there to this hybrid cloud model where everything is secured at the workload level and not somewhere in our network. In lots of legacy environments, you're going to do all of your security inside the network, which makes everything harder to do, especially when you're migrating from what you have today to where you need to be. We don't need to do security inside our network, we do security entirely. If you set up a huge number of VPNs where you only get access to one specific thing,
we saw on that timeline, we started this decision in 2022.
All right, pop quiz day. On average, what percentage of times do you think that security teams and platform teams don't get along?
I'd say about 50 to 60%, somewhere in the middle.
Okay, you want to know what the real answer is?
That's the real answer.
So the cloud complexity report that just came out actually said it was 73%, higher than you might have thought. Why do you think that would be?
I think it might just be because historically we've just not really had to work together. And I think security teams have always been the teams of no, you can't do this, you can't do that. So I think over time the dev and ops and other platform teams have felt like we just do our own thing and security would just do its own thing.
And now with the emergence of DevSecOps, do you feel like a lot of that is changing and that everyone is moving and shifting to a lot more?
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of organizations and a lot of ideologies have been around removing the silos from dev and ops. So I think as long as everyone is starting to work hand in hand together and also embed security into the entire dev and ops lifecycle, we can move in the right direction.
Fabulous. Well, I hope for our future and I want us to all be friends. So thank you so much, Day.
The next thing on my day one agenda was honestly one of the coolest talks of the whole conference, which is about taking a data center from zero to production with Nomad.
Basically, this talk will cover concepts of using Nomad as a bootstrap coordinator and then build upon this concept to use Nomad not only as an application orchestrator, but as a foundational layer for ongoing data center upkeep. So I guess it's going to go into essentially building a data center in a very simplified way. So let's see how that goes.
What blew me away was how they cut the timeline from 9 months of build for a data center to just 3 hours. And that's literally bringing a data center to life in one afternoon. If you're not familiar, Nomad is a flexible workload orchestrator that lets you deploy and manage containerized or even legacy applications through a unified workflow. It runs everything from Docker and microservices to batch jobs. And seeing this in action for this talk really got me thinking about how it could reshape the way organizations spin up their own physical data centers, especially for AI, by letting them move at a true startup speed. It was really incredible. Right after the previous talk, I went to another talk, and this was a session with Scott McAllister from Lofts Labs and Kerim Satirli from HashiCorp, who also wrote the Terraform Cookbook, and whom I also interviewed later in this video. They walked through how Kubernetes, which was originally built with CPUs in mind, can now tap into GPUs to supercharge AI infrastructure, Using NVIDIA's Sky Scheduler or any scheduler of your choice, teams can now share GPU resources across clusters, which is pretty huge when you're working with expensive hardware. They also broke down how to keep that setup secure with things like defense in depth with virtual clusters, which helps to limit your blast radius, allow for easier auditing, and not having forever credentials. And to tie it all together, they showed how HashiCorp Vault fits into the secrets management portion of this and gives teams a strong isolation and access control mechanism while still getting the efficiency of pooled GPU resources. And I think with so many companies already pouring serious budgets into GPUs, especially for AI, it's a pretty smart approach to squeeze more value out of that investment and make sure that every GPU cycle counts. The day wrapped up with an evening social that was packed with food trucks. There was so much good food that I pretty much sampled everything. Here are some pictures for some of the food I tried. I then wrapped up the night of day one with dinner alongside some friends who live out here in San Francisco and hadn't seen in a while. It was great catching up and ending the day on a pretty chill note.
Would do it justice? Like, the steepness, that's crazy. That's why. And it goes all the way down. All right, there we go. Much steeper from up here. And there's still a long way to go up there.
Day 2 kicked off with a keynote that was way more forward-looking and focused on where HashiCorp is heading as cloud evolves and AI keeps reshaping everything. HashiCorp co-founder and CTO Armon Dadgar opened by talking about the future of infrastructure as code in an AI-driven world. He was also joined by Brendan Burns, who is a corporate VP at Microsoft, and Tyler Jacobson, who is the director of cloud operations and engineering at Adobe, and they had a conversation that was packed with industry insights, some real-world perspective, and a clear view of what's next for cloud infrastructure. Armon then covered updates around the new MCP server for Terraform, which you can use to manage infrastructure using natural language and securely interact with private and public Terraform registries in a way that allows it to do all of these different things right from an AI client or an IDE. The biggest reveal though of Keynote 2 for today was Project Infograph. It's basically a purpose-built graph system for managing multi-cloud and hybrid cloud states with better visibility and actionability. The new Graph Explorer comes with pre-built natural language queries so you can do things like spot unmanaged resources, check the state of specific resources or groups, and trace how something was provisioned, all without writing custom code. Armon then wrapped the session by talking about agentic identity and access management, and then he brought out one of HashiCorp's former co-founder, who was also the creator of Vagrant, Packer, Console, Terraform, Vault, Nomad, Waypoint, and several more. And he brought him out to premiere the trailer for the story of code, which I'm honestly super excited to see. After the keynote, I spent some time interviewing cloud infrastructure and security experts about their experience of the conference and the announcements they were most excited about. But before I got started, the HashiCorp team actually turned the tables and interviewed me first. I shared my thoughts on what I want AI to do for me, especially with threat hunting, and also my thoughts on HashiCorp's new Project Infograph.
Cool. I think just essentially having this like visualization of like, because I think one of the issues that we face in tech is like knowing what we have access to, what we have like awareness. So I think the discoverability that it comes with, I think helps out a lot for both observability as a problem and then also security as well. I think in security, especially with like threat detection, threat hunting, incident response, correlation is super important for like understanding like your systems and how an attacker might move across your network. So when you have disparate data sources that are not connected, it's harder to have good visibility because you have to look at different sources. So when you have your data in like a centralized like data lake or management platform, it's easier to correlate and better understand like how a threat actor might move or pivot laterally or horizontally within your environment.
Next up was Kerim Satirli from HashiCorp, who is also the author of the Terraform Cookbook and the speaker who talked about GPU sharing done right. Here are some of his insights.
At HashiCorp, we're focused on infrastructure and orchestration tooling. So pretty much Terraform, Packer, Nomad all the time, Vault on other instances, whatever the project requires. Yeah.
What new features or announcements from the conference have you most been excited about so far?
I mean, definitely the special projects that's coming our way, but now is not the right time to talk about that.
Yeah.
But from the public stuff, Infograph, definitely.
That's a good one.
Just being able to see what my infrastructure is doing holistically is great. We had a good inroads in that with Terraform, HCP Terraform Explorer last year. but that was just scratching the surface, and now we're going so much deeper.
That's good.
Big fan.
Yeah, I think like whenever you can get better observability and discoverability, like
Helps everyone.
everybody, whether it's platform, dev, or
Exactly. A business, testing, everyone, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, you're gonna have an incident, and you want to drill down where it is.
Absolutely.
And notifications is not the only part. Notifications is certainly one part. Yeah. But being able to remediate it and figure out what's going wrong works.
Absolutely. Love it. I know yesterday you were talking about all those like running like local, LLMs at home.
Funny that you bring that up. Yeah, that's definitely it. I got a couple of NVIDIA Jetsons at home.
That's
So I've been experimenting with running LLMs locally.
nice.
For a couple of reasons. One, those devices are pretty much like the best simulation of like a local data center without, spending 30 grand on a GPU, which still requires additional hardware on top of it.
Yeah.
Because, like it's an ecosystem.
Yes.
Just figuring out how can I run something like Granite locally? How can I run a Dockling pipeline?
Would you say you're a huge home labber? You sound like one.
Only for the really hard stuff. So I like building hardware that you can take with you. The robots that we have at HashiConf are definitely one of those things.
Yep.
So basic robot with an HTTP API, so you can drive it through Terraform.
Nice.
Lots of fun. I worked on a little project called like an edge case.
Yeah.
So think mobile data point, GPU hardware, so you can take it anywhere and just do inferencing on the edge.
That's really cool.
It's kind of like the mad scientist kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But also trying to push our technology.
Yeah.
And figure out what can we do sustainably.
Yeah.
Because you don't always get data center type protection, data center type speed for your internet.
Yeah.
So, how do we work with the resources we have?
Absolutely.
I also got to chat with Rob Barnes, who is a senior developer advocate at HashiCorp and is also deeply involved in Nomad's runtime and security layer. We talked a lot about Nomad's underrated flexibility and why it scales so well for high-performance workloads, especially as AI data centers keep growing. Rob also broke down why everyone is buzzing about Terraform Actions, which is finally bringing day 2 operations and automation directly into Terraform, just like Armon mentioned in the keynote. He even mentioned how he plans to integrate those updates into the Terraform provider he maintains, TerraCurl, and into his upcoming blog series on secrets consumption patterns for Nomad. If you want to read more of Rob's thoughts and how they connect back to HashiCorp's broader direction, I break them down in this week's CyberWOX Unplugged newsletter, which is my HashiCorp 2025 recap. It'll be linked in the description below. Before meeting more of the HashiCorp leadership, I talked with several other attendees to hear their take on the event.
All right, so tell us who you are, what you work on, and what brings you to HashiConf 2025.
Hi, my name is Nikisha Mims. I am an application security lifecycle specialist, and the team that I'm currently working on, we do cloud security. So for my company, we basically try to make sure any of our company's data that's going outside of our network is going to be secure. So
Nice. Hi, my name is Ana Gonzalez Giraldo. I'm a computer science student at Indiana University, Indianapolis, and I'm here because I actually won a scholarship. So I'm a scholar. I'm so excited to be here and enjoying the ride.
Yep. So my name is Queen, and I am a Google Cloud Security Engineer, and I work on predominantly network security within my organization. What brought me to the HashiConf? I got selected for the HashiConf scholarship.
Nice.
And I also work a lot on Terraform. So I was excited to come to the conference for the 10th anniversary.
So what would you say is the most exciting release for you so far?
So I was torn between the radar, the Vault Radar, which was what it does is it scans your IDE and it inspects for like exposed credentials, PII. But then today they had Project Infograph. And so Jackie, she was a wonderful presenter, and what it does is it pretty much provides a single pane of glass for you to see all of your resources and just see if there's any vulnerabilities or things that need to be patched. So I was from a cybersecurity perspective, very happy about that.
Gotcha. This Vault Radar?
yes.
Yeah.
That because my team in particular, we are focused on our company's data.
Yeah.
And so if there is going to be any sensitive data
In the code?
committed, we want to make sure that that's not happening. And I feel like that's going to benefit us in the long run to make sure that does not happen.
After the conference, is there anything you're looking forward to doing? Any fun projects? Anything coming up after this for you?
Yes. So I want to do more with, I would say, Terraform and GCP.
Right.
I think there's a lot of learning resources and material, especially for beginners, using AWS. Even the exam itself are kind of geared toward AWS. Yeah. So I would love to do more projects. Beginner friendly for individuals that want to learn Terraform, but they specialize maybe in GCP. So when I started, I didn't have a lot of resources, so I kind of want to give back in that way.
That's awesome.
For me, I do want to get my Terraform certification. So I'm going to be working on that and also going back to doing more side projects. Before my current job, I was a developer, and I kind of want to get back into coding and using more of the HashiCorp tools on that.
Yeah, of course. So, my goal is to be a cloud engineer.
Nice.
So I will definitely, I'm learning Terraform. So my focus is to complete different projects so that I can gain hands-on experience on this tool.
I also caught up with Brian Chong, who's the Director of Infrastructure and Security at Rubrik. Brian's team runs Terraform, Packer, and Vault every day, and they're now looking to add Nomad and Consul to close the loop between infrastructure and application-level orchestration. What stood out to him most from HashiConf was Terraform Actions, which he mentioned could help unify and even replace some of their existing toolsets, saving them time and reducing operational sprawl. The other big one for him was SBOM visibility in Packer, which is a security and compliance must-have. With the government mandates and supply chain scrutiny rising, he's glad to see HashiCorp building that directly into the workflow. And next for him at Rubrik is experimenting with Consul for service discovery and bringing SBOM data into their compliance systems. I break down all of Brian's perspective and how it connects to the broader security and lifecycle themes from HashiConf in my written recap over on Cybersecurity Unplugged, link in the description below. Next, I got a chance to talk with Armon Dadgar, HashiCorp's co-founder and CTO. We spoke about how organizations can stay secure and operational as AI and multi-cloud adoption keeps accelerating. Armon emphasized 3 core pillars, which are standardization through unified platforms, managed delivery via the HashiCorp Cloud Platform, and visibility, which will be powered by Project Infograph. He explained how most outages and breaches aren't caused by a single system, but by on-scene dependencies, and that visibility is what will let AI actually act safely in production. He also touched on how MCP interfaces will eventually allow AI-assisted day 2 operations with proper context. Again, that was an allusion to some things he referenced in the keynote. I cover more details of his full vision and some quotes inside the CyberWorks Unplugged newsletter, where I unpack how HashiCorp's pushing from automation to true agentic infrastructure. Again, it'll be linked in the description below. I also had a great chat with Will Bengston, VP of Platform and Security Engineer at HashiCorp. Will runs the HashiCorp Cloud Platform, and he talked about how his own teams use Terraform, Vault, and Packer daily. For him, immutable infrastructure is key. Being able to rebuild, redeploy, move fast, and stay safe. And he was most excited about Project Infograph, especially with its asset management and vulnerability tracking potential, and also the way that natural language queries can make complex graphs accessible. He even shared how he's exploring new ways AI can enhance HashiCorp's products. I wrote more about Will's perspective on platform security and speed in the newsletter version of this recap, again in the description below. One of my favorite conversations was with Tameika Reed, who is the founder of Women in Linux and a lead infrastructure engineer working across edge and multi-cloud environments. Tameika actually shared that she had predicted somewhat of what has now become Terraform search and AI-driven recommendations back in 2019 when she met with Armon Dadgar in Amsterdam, and now it's a reality. She sees MCP servers and Terraform Search as game changers for accessibility, especially for startups that can now spin up infrastructure pretty quickly using AI and Terraform Cloud. She shared so much more perspective on several other things. So if you want to see more of our insights on generative AI, Vault, and the next phase of secure automation, again, check out my HashiCorp recap in the CyberWorks Unplugged newsletter. Link in the description below. I wrapped up the interviews with Nasiullha Chaudhari, better known as Cloud Champ, to his 160,000 YouTube subscribers. He's also a HashiCorp ambassador and a huge Terraform advocate. His top highlight for the conference was MCP servers, which let you describe infrastructure in plain language and have Terraform generate the code automatically. He was also excited, just like me, about Michelle Hashimoto's return and the Story of Code project under IBM's umbrella. And for him, HashiConf isn't just about the tech, it's about the connection, the learning, and the growth. I'm sure he's already back creating content for his channel and gearing up for HashiConf 2026 in Atlanta. You can read more about his take and also just in general how creators like himself amplify these ecosystems in my CyberWorks Unplugged newsletter in the description below. Next, I took some time to explore San Francisco, finally. And what better way to do that than hopping in a Waymo for the first time and then heading out to the Golden Gate Bridge. And that's a wrap on HashiConf 2025. 2 full days of keynotes, hands-on sessions, and conversations with people shaping the future of cloud and security. From several HashiCorp's big announcements, including Project Infograph, Terraform MCP, Vault Raider, and all the expert insights from all the folks who are using different tools. It was definitely an incredible ride. And a huge thank you to HashiCorp for sponsoring this video and sponsoring my trip to HashiConf 2025. If you like this video, you'll definitely like all of my other vlogs in this playlist on the screen, and I'll see you over there.